You're listening to the Faith and Friction Podcast with your hosts, Mac and the Rev. Welcome to the conversation.
All right. Welcome to the conversation. So here we are, Rev. One more time, man.
Welcome to our minds. Welcome to our hearts, our spirits, and our craziness.
It's another one. We say this almost every week. This one is a strap-in one again, too. You know, we get to, and we are going to talk about one of the most famous individuals ever, at least in Western culture, without a doubt, right? We're going to talk about Jesus of Nazareth, right? This is
I've had people come to me and say, when these kinds of conversations and they're not strapped in, they'll come up and point their finger at me and say, don't mess with my Jesus. I think Jesus wants us to mess with the ideas that he stood for. To play with them.
Yeah, I think he opened up so wide, and we are so narrow that sometimes, again, it's us creating God and Jesus in our own image, as opposed to him going, "You ain't gonna figure this out." Again.
I have a minister friend. I won't mention his name. He's ascended, but I remember him saying at one point that Jesus is somewhere looking down upon all that's been done in his name, going, "No, you got it all wrong. What are you doing in my name?"
Yeah, you knuckleheads, what's going on down there? Okay, so we're going to talk about Jesus in this episode, and it's not going to be the typical Jesus that you might hear from fundamentalism or orthodoxy, and not totally different, but we're certainly going to talk about some things that we might look at him a little differently, and why. It's not just to be different,
Well, and I hope it comes from not just wise thinkers who have thought outside the box, but my own personal relationship with the man and with the essence that he stood for. Because I do have a relationship, and lots of what I hear jives, and lots of what I hear does not jive in that relationship.
I think we've been given the freedom that that's okay. I think, again, the whole concept of who he was and what he was trying to impart to us about connecting with our own inner divinity, right, is so exciting and is so freeing and liberating. And it's scary to some people, for sure. It was scary to me once I kind of had to get outside the little box that I was in. But then you were talking about this earlier, and then it's like,
Breathing, tonight's episode, Breathing with Jesus.
Hey, that might be a good title. Exhaling with Jesus. I love that. So
I remember my relationship with the man, his teachings, and the essence got deeper when I could breathe with him and didn't just accept hook, line, and sinker what I had been taught by anybody, by a previous minister or a grandfather or a father.
Right.
When I went, let me breathe in the essence. For me? Which is, breath and spirit have the same etymology. Right. So it's living in the spirit of what Jesus, the Christ, if you will, taught and brought to the planet. And that is going to be found in the breath.
Well, let's breathe. Okay. Let's breathe into this thing, man.
All right, bring on your first idea with the first breath.
So let's just exhale with what we, the royal we, the big we, tend to think about him. How do we look at him? How are the different ways that we, as a culture, as a church, as a Christian, and even not, people, and there's where it kind of gets kind of muddled,
Well, because there's as many ways to look at the man and what he brought to the planet as there is colors in the crayon box.
Amen. Right?
No, but I will fight and defend that brown is the only way he expressed. He expressed in so many different ways.
We're going to have to debunk that just a little bit, and not to point fingers, but just to diffuse that brown crayon thinking a little bit. Yeah. And why? Not because we don't like brown, but because we got, like you said, a whole box of colors.
If we're going to pick a color, he was brown-skinned. He was not a white man with blonde hair.
Very true. All right. And then how people tie together him and the church. And so now it's my experience as the church has introduced me to him that frames it, as opposed to how does he frame me with the church secondary. in the background. And for most people, that doesn't happen.
This is the mystical experience. This is having a first-hand experience and not a second-hand spiritual experience.
Hopefully I can take that spiritual experience and experience it in community. That's fine, but I don't want the community framing the mystical experience.
Right. Well, it's being in the crayon box of spirituality and religion to go, wow, tell me about how you experience this entity, this energy, this man as orange. I feel it as blue or purple.
Right.
How much richer is the environment
I love that
when
analogy,
we can
man.
share those ideas? The painting, the work of art that will come from the crayon box, I think will be closer to reality of what the man really was, and certainly a much richer experience.
Hello, and yes, and we were talking about some personal stuff here not long ago. In the church, a lot of times what it will do too is it will teach us to take the orange crayon and color inside this box, because these are the lines, and you color here. We're making a picture. Oh, no, that doesn't look like a tree. Here's a tree. Here's a picture of a tree.
Here is your paint by number work of art.
Right, and gosh, like I said, Jesus is, that whole spirit moving is got to be going, what the hell are you guys doing? That's such a it's not wrong, but it's a very tiny piece of the bigger picture, so we don't have to point fingers and say, no, that isn't a tree. Give me a break. You're putting me in a mold. Well, it might be a tree. Okay.
Sure.
But there's whole lots of other trees that could be drawn from the crayon box. All right. So here's how we think of him. Maybe on the top of that list, I think, is going to be he's God. He's a member of the Trinity. And we capitalize the H anytime we write him. Right? I mean, this is probably the highest level that we're going to stick him at is
the unattainable God. Reality, the exception to expression,
right?
That we can never ever begin to even approach.
There it is. So there's that kind of, I don't know. I think everything would probably work in the conventional way down from there, right?
Yes.
Okay. Fully human and fully divine. I like that one.
I love that because it begins to draw a distinction between a man, a very wise, incredible man, and the essence that he was aware of.
Right.
That its true nature was.
Well, see, this is a point where you don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater as our concept of the Jesus, the Christ, or whatever evolves and broadens and widens out. That is he fully human and divine? Yes. But then you have the orthodoxy that defines that. What does that mean? Versus we have full divinity within ourselves as well. I mean,
it's an expansive spirituality. It's an expansive understanding of essence, of divinity, of spirit. But it's also an expansive understanding of our humanity. Because I think as the spirit gets broader and more awakened, so does our humanity. That it's a causal relationship. They're dancing together. And when they're in partnership, the yin and the yang, everything gets better on all sides of that equation.
How do you even come to be able to define or categorize or describe God or the divine separate, absent of humanity? It doesn't, I mean, it just doesn't click, For years, I was taught that the Bible is his story, right? And finally, I got to a point where I said, you wouldn't have a Bible if it wasn't for us. Okay?
Right.
Okay? It just isn't about
it was
Jesus
co-creation.
and God. Okay? It was about how we all interact together. That's the beautiful part about it, right? All right.
We're not just breathing, we're dancing and we're writing together.
Oh, sorry. I can't be people.
Wild and crazy guy.
The video people can see me, but I'm not saying anything. All right. So we got those couple things. Just a prophet, much of the world will look upon Jesus. The Jews will look upon Jesus as a prophet.
Yep.
Oh,
The Quran, the Muslims.
That's right. The Muslims
He's
do.
mentioned a lot in the Quran.
All right. So you've now taken him as a prophet. He's a man. He's a human being with divine characteristics, which again are in all of us.
With the divine ability to plant seeds of what the future can be.
Yes.
To go, this is a possibility, and to plant it into the consciousness of humanity. Absolutely, I see him that way.
An inspiration. And
yes.
The funny thing is, again, not to run a rabbit trail, but I'm trying to connect a lot of the dots here. The Bible talks about in the beginning, when the church was formed, that there were certain offices that God bestowed upon people. One of those was a prophet. All right. So the prophet, as part of the big C church, has always been part of the equation, not just in the Old Testament.
No.
Right. So we don't tend to acknowledge that, and it got screwed up and it got abused, but we're there. The people are there.
Well, and
prophetic.
then we learn later on in the same book that prophecy is a wonderful gift, but there is a greater gift than that, and that is the gift of love. So prophesying from a place of love, an energy of love, is more tremendous than just telling you a story or planting a seed. I'm planting the energy of love, which is another example you don't have on the list here, but I saw him doing.
Yeah,
he awakened us to the love that we had forgotten.
Point. No, and you know what? If you go back to all the Old Testament prophets that we think, who's a prophet? I mean, you go to the Old Testament, typically all the books in the Bible, right? And then Older Testament.
Thank you.
Right? Okay. I think, how could those men typically, but there were some women, Deborah, and some other women.
They were there. We tried to write them out and push them to the side, but they were absolutely there.
And they spoke into the lives of the Jewish people with love.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know how they couldn't have done that. I mean, I think we tend to lose sight of that characteristic in those prophets.
Is that an essential component to prophecy? If it's coming from hate and anger and tear down, is it really prophecy? I don't think so. It's a seed that has no root, that has no possibility. But so love is an essential component of that.
Yeah, and it's just spanking at that point. Then you're just speaking the words,
I'm trying to force my reality as opposed to opening you up to a greater reality.
Yeah,
Again, it's the expansiveness or the contraction of both our spirituality and our humanity,
which takes place all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
breathing in.
We're trying to, what we've experienced, each one of us in our own way, and what we're trying to express on the podcast to others is that there's a whole different paradigm out there that we have begun to experience. Not that we've arrived, but it's beyond the beyond. Right?
And I'm willing to pick up the orange crayon on the brown crayon on the purple crayon and play with it. Sure. I don't know. I don't have a corner on what I can do with that, but I'm certainly going to not push it away or throw it out of the box.
No, I want to experience the whole box.
And that's what the teacher showed me.
Right.
Jesus, as a teacher, crossed the boundaries, crossed the borders, broke the rules so that he could teach everybody.
With radical new ideas, but they resonated. It was time in his time for that teaching, for that being the way shower. We talk about that as well. Follow me. I mean, the Bible says that. He said that.
It. Follow me, follow me.
Right?
He didn't say
follow
worship
me. All right. Ooh, you just snuck that in there, but it's true. Right? So
there's the adage that says that when the students are ready, the teacher will arrive. Was the human consciousness on the planet ready for him? Was it inviting in his rebellious nature to challenge the authority, both the authority on the external and the authority of the ego on the inside? I think absolutely yes. So I'm going to call him a rebel as well as a teacher.
Well, he's the biggest radical. We talked about that in the last podcast, right? And what I think happened, though, yes, he came with that with the reformation, with the radicalization. And then over time, and it didn't take that long, we narrowed that box right on down again, and we got comfortable, and we controlled it. And that's why you're saying he's looking down going, wait a minute,
I need
guys.
to contract spirit to be able to get my head around it. And what if we just didn't need to get our head around it?
That's a good point.
Just got our heart around it.
What if, right? Imagine that. All right. If we're coloring with the whole box, okay,
and it'll look like chaos. Yeah. Oh, it looks like chaos until it doesn't. But in the beginning was they say the void. That translation is there was chaos. It was all the colors in the box, but then things began to gel and to stir. And I believe that right now the human race, the human consciousness is ready to take the chaos that we may feel and go, there's something greater that wants to happen here.
Right.
But it must be expansive, not contractive.
Well, again, yes. Well, contractive puts one crayon in a box again.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's just, we've been there way too long. All right. It's time. For just such a time as this, we need all the crayons. I'm going to keep coming back to that because I love that analogy. Man. I love it. Okay. Of course, you have the more fundamental Christian perspective of him being a savior. Now, I think he is. Okay. I just want to redefine that word.
Yes.
Because I don't need to be saved like the Rob Bell thing. I don't need to be saved from God. What kind of God is that? All right.
I do need to be saved from my limited thinking. I do need to be saved from my belief that God only expresses as an orange crayon. I do need to be saved from my stinking limited thinking that has put God in a box.
I need to be saved from myself. All right, in a large extent. All right, and all the things that you were just talking about. So I would look upon him as that, and I would press into his teachings, his example, to help me be saved, again, from my stinking thinking. So,
well, and how, and you skipped one of the words here, way shower, to show me the way to know more of myself, to show me the way to know more of everybody, to show me the way to know more of God by whatever name you give that God.
What do we see in the Bible? What label does the Bible give Christ, people of Christ, first and foremost?
It's the way. The Gnostics.
The way.
The Gnostics said it was the way.
The way that they were followers of the way. And that's kind of simple to me, as opposed to where we took it into creeds and dogma and lists and catechisms and everything else that came out of that. All right.
The path laid out did not meet my agenda, and so I need to fix it.
Yeah.
Oh, if you need to fix what Jesus brought to the planet, how about you just live into it?
How about? That's a pretty good call out right there. All right. Of course, what comes with that then is the intercessor. If you're saving me from God, who can really not look at me directly. Now he comes in as my intercessor, so that if I need to communicate with God, just similar to the way the Catholic Church, put the priest in the middle of all that for centuries, all right? Now I got to go through Jesus, and he's going to intercede for me, going to plead my case for the most part before the Father. Before God. I mean,
because I am not worthy, because
right.
I am not intelligent enough, because I am stained and broken. Oh my gosh, this is not the view I saw Jesus having of me. He called us out to a higher version of ourselves, not a broken version of ourselves that did not have access to the essence of God.
Original sin, original blessing, it kind of goes all the way back there, doesn't it? If we could, depends how you want to look at that. Right?
And he told us time and time again, don't play small. Go put your light on the hill. Wait a minute. No. Christianity, as I've experienced,
put it under the bushel.
No, you need to diminish yourself. You need to play small, which is in counter argument.
Why would God want that?
Exactly. I created you so that you would play small.
Well, and keep in mind, and we talk about this all the time. The faith, the Christian faith, and that's, man, you can't put that in, you can't define that by just making that statement, all right, because it's all over the dang map.
30,000 sects of Christianity.
Come on, all right? But in a commonality, the way that it's developed, the way that it's evolved, great. But now is such a time. That's all. And this is the big message we're saying. We're not trying to put down or demean up to this point.
I'm grateful for every moment of teaching from my ancestors, from every minister, what they gave me, because it helped me become who I am and evolve. But it did not help me stay stagnant and quit evolving.
Well, and this is the point that we all throughout this podcast and our interaction together want to make over and over again. Now is such a time to go here. Now is such a time to look at Jesus differently, in a higher Christology, because we should be able to receive it now. I think God, that's the plan. that we can only, just like anything, little kids can't understand calculus. All right. Yeah. There's an evolution part, and we get it, and we get it, and we learn, and we experience, and we come closer. Let's continue that pull forward.
And it does not mean that you diminished when you learned 1 + 1 = 2.
Right.
Or if A = B, B = C. You need all that in calculus.
Right.
I'm not a mathematician. I just exposed that. But the reality is that is an essential building block and component to the evolving mathematics. Why have we not done that with our religion and our spirituality? I'm saying we need to.
We should want to as well. We're trying to also plant the seed in everybody. You want to lean into that.
And I believe that seed already, it's not about planting the seed. I believe we all have that hunger and that thirst for the moreness, the expansiveness of God. It's just put a little water on it. That's all we're doing is consider, have a conversation, try it on for size, and just see what happens. And don't be afraid that you're going to be condemned, which is the people telling you play small. Don't have any intelligence. Don't have any notion outside of the box.
Well, we got the creed. Here's what God, here's what it's all about. All right. And again, I don't want to diss creeds. I'm just saying that it's all well and good, but that becomes a box if that's all God in your mind is, okay? We've already talked about him being a spiritual revolutionary. And then, there's that commonality, there's that familial thing where a lot of people will call him my brother, that family sort of, connotation, which, again, if that works for you, fine with me. Who am I to
brings
say,
it to a more personal, deep relationship.
Yeah, if that's the way you can relate, fantastic, okay? Because I guarantee you all those guys, his guys, and everybody else, they had that, my brother, we say it all the time.
Yep.
Here, so it's there it is, yes. I guess I'm going to say, of course, all right? So we've already talked a bit about how those views and those perspectives of him can create all kinds of friction all the way across the board. Whether it's within ourselves, I struggle with looking at Jesus that way because this is the way I've always looked at him. That creates friction within me, right?
Good for you. You're taking it to the internal world.
I knew you would love that. Okay. So, yes, you're going to create some friction. And friction creates what? Heat. All right? Friction's going to create heat. It's going to get a little hot in there, man. Okay? Good. All right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's going to stimulate some stuff. So, we have to begin to say, where's the friction? And then how do we take that friction and move in it, through it, above it, around it, and leave it? All the above, right? Some of it, it's there. What do we do with it? And I think to a large extent, when that friction gets created, it's heat. And what does heat usually do when it's put to something?
There's the expansion.
It expands, right? So, again, that's where we want to go with this, to give some ideas about how these ideas about Jesus can expand.
Right. And again, it's going to change the paradigm, which this podcast does. Friction is not bad. It's not your enemy. It is a necessary component for expansion. Heat, I was thinking the word warmth, but whatever it is, it causes expansiveness.
Right.
And I believe that's good for everybody. And I believe it's not comfortable. It may not be comfortable, but I think there's greater light. When fire grows, there's more warmth, there's more light. And that's what I'm looking for in my relationship with the infinite.
Right. Well, light which reveals more things. Yeah. That's what, to me, that pretty much is what it's all about. It's that revelation that says, here was my God, right here, small, just, I got it. And then, the revealing isn't because God chose me. We talked about this capriciousness. It isn't because, okay, now I think you're ready, Rev. Yeah. Let me see about revealing myself a little more to you. It's us going, we got it all right here, man. We just got to get the junk out of the way, and that takes time.
And I love when we talk about going to the inside edge all the time. Yeah, you take that warmth, you take your torch, your light to the inside edge, and you realize this isn't the end of the world. There's more out there. I've got the light now within me that is so full and luminous that I'm seeing, that which I thought was the ending place, there's more.
Right.
And I believe that makes Jesus smile. It certainly makes the Christ within me smile.
Yes. I don't know. I just think that there's such a gift that we've been given, and we play small, like you talk about all the time.
So let's lean into the friction.
So some of the friction points, just, we'll just kind of run through some of these. Do we have a progressive and practical Christianity, or do we have a fixed one? Right? Or. I mean, it's not like, can some parts be fixed that we're grounded in and we drove the stake in the ground? Can some part of it be progressive that we're just, like you said, going to the inside edge?
Yeah.
And as we go to that inside edge, can we just get practical about it? Instead of checking our brain at the door.
It's a both and, not an either or reality.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I can be grounded and expanding at the same time.
Right.
I can have my stake in the ground, but allow the current of God's flowing in my life to take me to new dimensions and to new levels.
Yeah.
I think it must be both.
These are some concepts that years and years ago, when I was okay, and then that place of the smaller boxed sort of theology, I never would think of that way. I just never would think that. I mean, it just didn't ever come across the radar. You didn't get taught it, and you would have to have a really great revelation on your own almost, or hear it somewhere else and stuff like that. And we all do. If we're leaning in, we're going to find it somewhere. I mean, it's going to happen. That aha thing, I never thought about it that way. But if that guy's doing it, or that girl's doing it, or hello.
Yeah, and it will resonate. You'll hear things that will resonate. Right. And if you shut them down, you shut down your life. Yeah. Really, it's shutting down the expansiveness of life.
Well, that's exactly what happened to me. That stuff started resonating, going, I like that. That is the God of my heart. Okay, I'm starting to be okay with going from there to here. Not better.
And that never would have happened had you not taken the flame of what you were given in a smaller box.
Sure, right.
And been willing to step outside for just a moment.
There's what it takes. It takes that impetus, right? So the other point I just want to really hit, I don't know, unless you want to go a little deeper on this, but understand that the concept of Jesus of Nazareth, after even during his life, but definitely as they try to figure out who this guy was, and now what do we do with everything we just experienced, all right? That whole thinking was not set in stone a day after Jesus, died, all right? No. It was going on for centuries. It still goes on today, all right? So the church struggled and talked and barked at each other and had ridiculously heated debates that still literally go on because you're trying to grasp air. I mean, it just doesn't it doesn't work, So the biggest point I'm making here is, don't think that the faith that any of us have today, if we're Christian, was once set it, forget it. Okay, I mean, there's just no way. And if you think that we're going back or we're grounded in our faith, that's today's faith. Okay? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Don't let the good of today or the faith of today get in the way of the good or the faith of tomorrow. I think when you do that, you actually devalue Jesus. You devalue the Christ message that he brought.
Yeah. Huh? No, and there's a certain amount, good point. What about just, when you have a coach, let's say a coach, you were talking about baseball yesterday. You have a coach that you really admired. They, developed your skills. You had fun. I mean, that whole kind of thing. When you hit the diamond, or when you hit the ice, or when you hit the whatever field you're playing on, it doesn't matter. You have this innate thing as well that you want to honor that coach.
Yep.
You want to honor the time and the effort and the love and the skills that individual gave you. And I think it's the same thing. I have an inside motive to honor that teaching, that imparting, that way. It's not worship. It's just thank you.
I carry every coach I ever had in swimming or baseball or music. Every coach, I carry them with me. Yeah. And I'm going to maybe, dance on the edge of blasphemy. Jesus as my spiritual coach, as my spiritual mentor, elder brother, teacher, however you want to contextualize it, I carry him and I carry the essence that he gave to me with me. And every coach to this day, when I surpassed their ability to coach me, would be thrilled and happy. That's what love does.
So yes.
Is it possible that Jesus could be celebrating and smiling that we even surpass greater things than I have done. Shall you do?
Yeah.
That's what a real coach is. Not, oh, you've gotten too good, I need to get you small again. Because I'll be out of a job as a coach. I think the greatest thing a coach can do is work themselves out of a job because their students are rising.
Yeah. Hello. These are life lessons, but we don't tend to look at them that way. We just don't. All right. But do we ever, when I started looking at Jesus this way, it changed everything for me. And so here was the change. And it says this in the Bible. Okay, so I'm not making it up. When I came to understand for myself that Jesus humanly, whether you want to lay the divinely thing in in heaven, he had to grow in his wisdom and his understanding and his spirituality.
Yes.
He had to. I mean, this was part of it. We could never follow him if we thought that was unattainable, unreachable. We got a God up there and we got a God up there. Who am I? It's that all that thinking, right? That, man, when I grasped it, I said, whoa, okay. That's his message. You can be touched with the divine.
I can't find anywhere in any iteration, you either have it or you don't. It's not there.
Yeah.
I see within you. I know within you. I feel that is within you. That which is within me is also in you. And I think that's what makes him such an incredible, valuable coach, teacher, mentor, and ambassador of God.
Because he turns us loose. It's that strap in, man. I think Jesus looked at his guys, what we say all the time.
Yeah.
Strap in, man. Let's go. All right, so those are some of the friction points, some of the stuff we all struggle with, right? Our conceptions of Jesus, then what we struggle with as we look at him that way. And then maybe let's just finish out the episode with just chatting about a few things about how can we, and we've talked already about some of this, so it's all interwoven, but I want to finish with some points that just say, we don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Right. Here's what an evolution of perspective and consciousness, we talk about that a lot, but spirit-filled, can look like, might look like, without feeling like you have to abandon everything you learned to look at Jesus a different way, right? It doesn't have to be that way, right? So could we, and I know we do, but I'm asking the question to our listeners, would you go to a place that if you started thinking differently about him, that like we've been talking about, that you couldn't call yourself a Christian anymore? How about that one? Because that's a big hurdle. That's a really, really big hurdle for
I've
some
gone
folks.
too far to the edge. I can no longer call myself by that label.
Right. And I was there for a while going, well, since I don't believe that he, was the atoning sacrifice, all those kinds of stake in the ground kind of things, I kind of was at a place at one point saying, well, if somebody asked me if I was a Christian, I know what they're asking me. Yeah. All right. And it was a struggle with me inside going, yeah, I am.
I've learned to answer that question with a question. When somebody says, are you a Christian? I'll say, well, give me your definition.
Yeah, right.
By somebody else's definition, I would not be.
Yeah.
By my own definition, absolutely.
Yes.
I am a follower of the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I am on the way of Jesus of Nazareth. Remember we had that years ago that we said that? Okay. So there's one. No, the answer is no. And when you say I am a Christian after you've kind of come out of that deconstruction, there's going to be friction there.
Sure.
And again, there we go. There's the friction that we have with our faith.
Well, and I like the idea that I can have the friction within myself every day. Ask myself that question. Am I a Christian? Am I following the way of the Christ essence, the consciousness, the energy? I think that's a good question to ask. Sure. Can I live in the footsteps of this great example? Can I live in the example? And if I can't, then that's going to be a no. But every day I get up, I say, yes, I can.
That's the
Be
desire.
more kind, generous, kind, and sacrificing myself for the good of others.
Yeah. Well, I think that was the essence.
Yeah.
Right? And we were talking about something last week or the week before, I can't remember now. But if I call myself a Christian and I believe that, I'm good with it. I don't need your validation of the way I define my Christianity in order for it to be true. And so often you get caught up in all that. Well, what are they going to say? They're not going to think, okay? They're going to, and what they do is they take the power right away from you, okay? And you secede it to them.
We don't give it away anymore.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. I will not give my relationship to the divine essence of life itself and love and light to anybody else.
Well, and we do it all the time, but once we realize what we're doing, start to turn that, direction, even 5 degrees, So these are there's a lot, obviously, there's always a lot more to this, especially when you're talking about Jesus, because tomes have been written about him over history.
And there is friction between those books.
Yes, there is. I mean, you can even look in the Bible. The books of the New Testament have friction, although people... We'll talk about the Bible.
We'll talk about Bishop Spong, who tore the Bible apart and said, look at all the inconsistencies. Look at all the things that are written there. And then he gave it back to me and said, yeah, but love is there.
Right. Yeah. You got to just remove the veil. All right. So I think at the end of the day, what I would leave with, and for me, is we can set the example of how to be that wind-blown follower of Jesus that blows with the wind, that's spirit-filled. And to me, that can be defined, if we want to give it a label, as a new kind of Christian, right? And it's really almost the old kind, right? Going all the way back to being followers of the way, right? But in this time, it would be refreshing and it would be new to be able to go there and love it and press into it.
And for me, it would give us, as we started, the breath.
Yeah.
The breath of life that I believe the world is really hungry for right now.
Totally. Wow.
I want that for everybody.
Let's all go about breathing more. We breathe in stuff and we breathe out. So let's just move that, the flow. We were done with the flow last night. Remember that? So love it, brother. Good stuff, man.
I behold the Christ in you.
And amen, the same from me to you.
There's a little bit of devil in us too, but that's the friction that we're wrestling with our humanness.
I saw that look you gave me, maybe a little bit more in me than you. Yeah, okay. Thanks a bunch. But thanks again. Thanks for all the wisdom and the learning. We hope we can impart, some of this perspective to help people move.
Yeah,
move and
go free with Jesus.
So good stuff. We'll do it again next week and strap in.
You bet.
All right. Thanks.